All right, we're going to take a trip to some of the most just incredibly isolated places on the entire planet. And I'm not talking about some lonely research station. These are real towns with families living year-round, literally hundreds of miles from, well, anything. So the big question is, how on earth do they do it? Let's dive in.
I mean, just look at this. This is a place called Tristan da Cunha. It's just this tiny, tiny speck of land in the middle of the South Atlantic. It just makes you wonder, right? How can anyone possibly live here? How does a whole community manage to survive when they're this cut off from the rest of the world?
Okay, so for this, we're going to focus on three pretty incredible and very different places. You've got Tristan da Cunha, which we just saw in the South Atlantic. Then, way out in the vastness of the South Pacific, there are the Pitcairn Islands. And then, we're going way, way north, deep inside the Arctic Circle, to a town on Greenland's east coast called Ittoqqortoormiit.
You know, to really get a sense of how isolated these places are, just think about the journey to get there. To get to Tristan, you're looking at a 6-day boat ride from South Africa. And Pitcairn, oh man, that's even crazier. You have to fly to Tahiti, then take another flight to a smaller island, and then get on a ship for 32 hours. And at Ittoqqortoormiit, it's multiple flights just to get to the coast, and from there, it's either a helicopter or a 25-mile snowmobile ride. There are literally no roads that connect it to anywhere.
So, you hear all that and you think, how is this even possible? Well, here's the secret. It's not because they're completely self-sufficient. Nope. The key to their survival is a lifeline, a really crucial connection to the outside world that, well, basically keeps them afloat. And that lifeline, it's mostly money.
And this lifeline, it comes in a couple of different forms. You've got Tristan and Pitcairn, which are both British overseas territories. So they get millions in funding directly from the United Kingdom. Ittoqqortoormiit, on the other hand, has a different setup. It's part of Greenland. So Denmark sends a huge chunk of money, about 500 million euros a year, to Greenland's government, and then a piece of that pie gets sent over to support these remote towns.
And this funding, it's not just pocket change. It is their absolute lifeblood. It pays for everything: maintaining buildings, running the schools and clinics, salaries, even emergency rescues. I mean, think about it. When the volcano on Tristan erupted back in 1961, the entire island had to be evacuated to England. That's what this money covers. When you don't really have a local tax base to speak of, these places just couldn't exist without that outside help, period.
Okay, so funding from the outside world is a huge piece of the puzzle. But what does that actually look like day to day, on the ground? How do you get simple things you need? And what do people even do for work in a place like this?
Seriously, just stop and think about this for a second. How do you get a carton of milk when the nearest grocery store is literally on another continent? Take Tristan da Cunha. The whole island, all 240 residents, they have just one small store. And that store only has what the last supply ship happened to bring. And that ship, it only shows up maybe 8 to 10 times a year. So if you forget to order something, well, you might be waiting for months to get it.
And the logistics can be just mind-boggling. On Pitcairn, it's even more intense. The supply ship is too big to even get close to shore, so it has to anchor way out in the bay. From there, the residents have to pilot these smaller boats, longboats, out to the ship through this really dangerous rocky water. Then they load everything up, bring it back to shore, and have to haul every single item. We're talking food, fuel, all of it, up this super steep path they call, pretty fittingly, the Hill of Difficulty.
So, what are the actual jobs here? Well, each place has carved out its own really specific niche. Tristan's entire economy is built around fishing for rock lobster. It's this big delicacy that gets exported all the way to the US and Japan. Pitcairn, with its tiny population of around 35 people, makes its money selling super rare honey and collectible postage stamps. Yeah, stamps. And up in Ittoqqortoormiit, it's this fascinating mix of traditional hunting, we're talking whales and polar bears, and a little bit of tourism on the side.
The way Tristan's economy works is actually pretty fascinating. It's this really unique system. You could almost call it community socialism. Basically, the land is owned by everyone, by the community. Outsiders can't just come in and buy it. And every family is given their own patch of land far for themselves. It's a system that goes all the way back to the island's first settlers.
But even with all these amazing ways they've adapted to survive, there's this huge shadow hanging over all of these communities. And that's the fact that their populations are shrinking. This right here is the real human cost of being so isolated. And here's the fundamental problem, the harsh reality of it. The schools on these islands, they only go up to age 16.
So if you want to go to college or get any kind of higher education, you have to leave. You have to go to the UK or Denmark or somewhere else. And what happens? Well, once these teenagers get a taste of the outside world, with all its opportunities, a bigger social life, a lot of them just never come back.
So you have this constant brain drain, this exodus of young people. And what's left behind is this incredibly small, incredibly interconnected community. Get this, on the entire island of Tristan da Cunha, there are only 7 family surnames. 7. Just let that sink in. It means literally everyone is related to everyone else in some way.
And this creates a situation that scientists call a genetic bottleneck. Think about it. Tristan's entire population of about 240 people, they all descend from just 15 original settlers. And because of that, certain genetic traits can become super concentrated. A perfect example is asthma. Almost half the people on the island have it, and they've traced that trait back to just 3 of the founding members. It's the same kind of story on Pitcairn, where everybody is a descendant of the original bounty mutineers and their Tahitian partners.
So when you put all of this together, it really brings us to the big critical question about their future. What's the endgame here? Are these communities being preserved? Are they being allowed to just slowly fade away in what you'd call a managed decline? Or are they actually facing extinction?
What's really interesting is that for the 2 British territories, the strategies are completely different. For Tristan da Cunha, the UK seems to be all in on preservation. They're investing money in things like a brand new healthcare center. The goal isn't to make the island grow, but to ensure it can survive. But for Pitcairn, it's a totally different story. The approach there looks a lot more like managed decline. The UK does what it has to legally, but there's no real long-term plan in place to actually save the settlement.
Now, Ittoqqortoormiit in Greenland, they're facing a uniquely modern threat, and that's climate change. The sea ice is disappearing, and that's totally messing up the migration and hunting patterns of the seals and polar bears that are the absolute foundation of their culture. So the very way of life that has sustained them for generations, it's now under direct attack from a global problem.
And trying to get new people to move in, it's basically impossible. I mean, Pitcairn has literally offered people free land, and they still get almost no one to take them up on it. There's this one quote that just sums it all up perfectly. If sunny villages in Sicily are having trouble attracting enough people, what chance does a place that's a 32-hour boat ride from Tahiti really have?
So when you look at the whole picture, these communities aren't just fighting against geography anymore. They're fighting against time itself. The fact that they even exist is just an incredible testament to human resilience and ingenuity. But here's the bottom line. As long as their children have to leave home to build a future for themselves, the real question isn't if they can survive today, it's how many generations they have left.